What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and I was sitting here naked on my couch drinking some coffee, watching some good old YouTube when I came across some very interesting revelations. I thought the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League storm was over, that I could move on and pursue other stories. And yet, here I am, making another one because it turns out the Suicide Squad, and more importantly, gaming journalism in general, actually is not done with me. Beyond this, I'll also speak on a damning report about how live service titles are devouring the entire Western gaming market at alarming rates, and a story that resurfaced where job interviews were determined whether you would cancel characters like Batman for being white or not. I'm not kidding, by the way, that's a real story. To begin, I was watching a recent video from Yellow Flash, who's a friend of the channel. He's a good guy and he makes great stuff. So I'm drinking my coffee and Flash links this article, and it turns out these weirdos are aware of me specifically. Let me explain. The article in question is from thegamer.com and it's titled, "Gamers are already calling Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League woke." After a major spoiler was shared online, gamers are shouting about progressive lunatics and calling Suicide Squad a woke disaster. The article also calls out another person who's manga lawyer or learning the law who's over on Twitter. The article tries to paint people like Lawyer and myself as hateful bigots and that we are what's wrong with the gaming community and online discourse in general. They attack Lawyer first by linking to a tweet they said where the reason why Rocksteady is garbage now is because the company is full of diversity hires and people who are hired based on gender rather than their skill. Lawyer made this tweet with this huge photo that you can see on screen now, detailing the stark contrast between Rocksteady in the good old Arkham days compared to the culturally out-of-touch diversity hired group they are now. Some images criticized here are how the Rocksteady that made the Batman Arkham games are predominantly a team of white men, which may seem racist to some people, but that's only if you're an idiot, of course. Rocksteady being predominantly white back then was not a red flag, since Rocksteady is of course located in England, and the reviews of those Batman Arkham games, like I previously mentioned in my last video, range from 87 to the highs of 94 when it came to games like Batman Arkham City. As you can see below here, pretty much anyone shown in pre-release hype videos for Suicide Squad are liberal white women, women of color, or men of color. A big difference compared to the group that made those Batman Arkham games that this new Rocksteady is riding the coattails of. And while I'm not saying people of color can't make great games or people who aren't white in general, since broadly speaking you have the entire Japanese gaming market out there being made by people who are very clearly not European white men, but it is funny how they almost only promote people in Rocksteady in these videos that are not white men. Why is that? Then I got curious. All of these people that Rocksteady has been promoting in their videos when it came to Suicide Squad, I wondered, had any of these people worked on the previous Batman Arkham games? So I went ahead and I found the credits for the most recent Batman title Rocksteady made, which is of course Arkham Knight. I then ran these people's names through the credits and not a single one of them was found to be involved in the creation of Arkham Knight, leading me to believe anyway that all of these people joined Rocksteady during Suicide Squad's development. So then when I was playing Grand Blue Fantasy yesterday, the PlayStation Store of course was promoting the hell out of Suicide Squad. And now seeing that none of these people that they're promoting had worked on the Batman Arkham games, it made it even more disingenuous when this Suicide Squad game is being promoted by saying that it's from the creators of the Batman Arkham series, when I'm sure there are still some of the old guard left at Rocksteady, but clearly anyone they're actually promoting or showing off when they talk about this game has not had a single hand in the creation of that studio's legacy. And the review scores confirm it too, because like I said, the Arkham trilogy scored very high, and Suicide Squad is sitting currently, as of the making of this video, at a low score of 62 on Metacritic. So while thegamer.com or any of the gaming press that tries to run damage control for Suicide Squad may attempt to paint Squad's failures as being at the hands of right-wing psychos, which they always say, let's be real, the truth is that not even the gaming journalists are liking this game either, since IGN gave it a 5 out of 10. And if you take everything I just said, it's clear that thegamer.com's attempted gotcha at Lawyer is all for naught as well. And actually, Lawyer is right, since their post proved that anyone they are showcasing as Rocksteady these days or are the creators of the Batman Arkham series is just plain lies. This is not the same Rocksteady, not even close. And the reviews reflect that, because there's no way the rocksteady of before would be capable of making a game with that low of a Metacritic score. It's just impossible for them. They were industry leaders. Now the company is just rocksteady in name. And may I add, hyping up this person in particular, who's apparently your head of user interface, is also not a good look. Since Suicide Squad's interface looks like that one unironic meme of that Elden Ring image where it's just information diarrhea all over the screen. And when you compare the user interface, or even the graphics, or how the water looks in Suicide Squad compared to Arkham Knight, outside of facial animation, somehow Suicide Squad looks much worse than Batman Arkham Knight did. So it's very clear to me anyway that the Gamer.com shilling for their corporate masters has done nothing but expose them even further into why this game is bad and why players are right to reject it. So, Lawyer was right with their posts, that's clear, but the Gamer.com then decided to double down further by attacking none other than myself in the same article where they said this. Of course, it's not just gamers on Twitter who are riled up. Some YouTubers have been quick to make videos labeling the game as a woke disaster, such as EndymionTv, who said that the pandering is implemented at the molecular level. Thank you, thegamer.com, it's good to know you guys actually watch what I do. And I stand by what I said, by the way. The pandering is absolutely drenched in this game right down to its DNA, and it's true. The Metacritic score is abysmal. This game took just as long to make as the entire Batman trilogy combined, and currently the player base counts on Steam are not looking good at all. As of the making of this video, Squad is sitting around the 12 to 13,000 player mark on opening day. This is abysmal for a live service game that took this long to make and likely costed hundreds of millions of dollars. I guarantee you right now, Rocksteady behind the scenes is scrambling, and I would wager morale is at an all-time low for the studio. Sadly, what they've done here is all but sign their own death warrant. And I guarantee you, within a month or two, we'll absolutely see layoffs, if not the entire studio crumbling to the ground. They can try to blame it on toxic players, as they like to say, or whatever other typical excuse they can find, but the truth is that this is their own fault. They drove away their best talent, and when the creators of Rocksteady left, they took all the best people with them, and for good reason. Because their talents and time would be wasted on something like this. The saga of Suicide Squad is the event horizon of woke modern gaming. It's a video game made for nobody that fails at everything it sets out to do and alienates its core audience by creating something that feels both dated and completely out of touch with what the paying customer wants. And also, in retrospect, when I think about it, Suicide Squad doesn't make much sense as a live service anyway. Why would you make a game designed to be played by multiple people at once to be this cutscene heavy? Most people who play live service games, whether it's Fortnite, Destiny, Apex, or more, the last thing they want to be doing is watching cutscenes and having control taken away from them. The core fundamentals of what makes a successful live service is to eliminate as much barrier as possible between the player and their objectives and loot. By constantly stopping your live service game to have minutes at a time long cutscenes makes this game feel as if it's living between two different identities. You want a cutscene heavy cinematic game, yet you advertise your game for live service players, who are almost unanimously the kind of players who don't care about story at all. They just want to level up, get loot, and make builds. This entire game feels at odds with itself. They actually made a game that forces you to sit still and watch stuff more than you're playing at times. So it's no wonder that this game is bombing. This is like cooking a steak and roasting some garlic potatoes in front of your paying customer, and then taking everything you just made and throwing it into a blender in front of their eyes and then giving them a steak potato smoothie instead. They shot themselves in both feet with this and somehow managed to burn the entire house down while they were at it. These can't be industry-leading veterans that made this, because this amount of foresight would be easily caught and remedied by people who are actually competent at their jobs. Games like Destiny have cutscenes as well, sure, but they are sprinkled sparingly throughout the experience. Because while yes, Destiny is struggling now, the truth is that it's still one of the more successful live service games out there. Destiny, and stuff like Fortnite, know that their player base doesn't care as much about story. They're playing for the gameplay and the rewards. If Destiny stopped you every 5 to 10 minutes to give you a 3-minute cutscene, the game would have died already. Or simply the majority of people would just skip it. That's not to say players are dumb or something, but we need to realize that certain genres cater to different kinds of players. Someone who enjoys JRPGs, for example, is totally fine with long cutscenes mostly because it's a staple of the genre. But a live service game is built upon its moment-to-moment gameplay, the frequency of loot, and the variety of the builds, and ensuring that players can rack up playtime because they're too busy having fun shooting and looting. Suicide Squad is just made for no one really, and the Gamer.com trying to paint me as some right-wing bigot is just hilarious. Because I wouldn't have the platform that I do if people weren't resonating with it on some level. The majority of the people watching this right now, I guarantee you, they just want escapism in their media. They're sick of being talked down to, forced political messaging down their throats, and being told that they're bigots if they don't accept things. I'm not some bigot or racist because I roll my eyes every time I see pandering or social messaging in my media. I've become so accustomed to seeing it that when I don't see it, I genuinely feel weird. As if I stumbled into the Twilight Zone and entered a world where everything is not as stupid as it is here. Suicide Squad is full of nonsense that I covered already in my other videos on it, and it actively goes out of its way to make every male character a joke while propping up the female ones only. We're not bigots because we don't accept your ideology, and we're not hateful because we demand better products. These companies, these developers and gaming journalists are simply angry and spiteful because their agenda and messaging is being met with so much pushback. And I truly believe Rocksteady dying like this doesn't help anyone, because this company is going to die because of their moronic choices and inability to retain key talent. All we want is great games that are worth what we pay for. And it's clear from a Western gaming perspective at least that nothing being made these days is reaching that bar of quality. Instead, every bad decision, poor game design, or lack of quality is caked up and painted over with woke nonsense in order to protect their work from being targeted for being garbage. And if the Suicide Squad's failure says anything, it's that the majority of the players out there, whether it's the vocal minority like myself or Lawyer, or the silent majority, are simply sick of this. And yet these companies are doubling down. Here's this article from Insider Gaming titled, "The Future of Gaming Hinges on Live Service Titles." As this article states, in a recent report published by Griffin Gaming Partners, it was revealed that a staggering 95% of studios and developers are working on creating or supporting a live service game in some capacity. The report surveyed 537 studios on a series of topics and claimed that 66% of all studios questioned agreed that live service games are necessary for long-term title success. The article further states that the definition of live service is broad and can be applied to games that get stuff like DLC outfit packs or character updates. So stuff like Tekken 8, for example, is technically a part of this as well, since when they add new characters or costumes, that defines the game as live service, so that term is obviously very broad on purpose. And you could even say by definition that new games like Grand Blue Fantasy Relink are somewhat live service simply because you can pay money to buy outfits for characters. But the actual game itself has no microtransactions that are tied to, say, gameplay or anything, as of now anyway. So clearly this article is titled a little weird on purpose. It's not that 95% of all modern gaming studios are making stuff exactly like Suicide Squad or Fortnite, but as the article further states here, that 77% of studios are saying costs are increasing when making games, and that 65% are actively working on a live service title and more. Of course, I do believe this article that a ton of live service games are still in the pipeline, but the reality is outside of a very small minority of titles like Fortnite, Destiny, or stuff like Call of Duty, the majority of live service titles will tank. Because not only is it just highly competitive, but it's incredibly saturated as well. And Suicide Squad falls into that mass grave of dead games, or soon to be dead games too. Because realistically, people aren't just tired of these sorts of games, but they just demand too much of your time. Many of them want their games to become your part-time job or your lifestyle, and let's be real, some of these games are people's full-time jobs or lifestyles. Due to how much they play them, it's unhealthy, and they prey on your loyalty to further spend by monetizing you further. Suicide Squad is the latest game to try this, and it will fail, and I guarantee you its death is making other studios shake in their boots. Because if a game with such a license attached to it like DC Comics can fail, what hope do these other people have? If any of these studios are smart, they'll cut the live service elements entirely. But we also know there's still a plenty out there who genuinely believe that they won't fail like Suicide Squad when they absolutely will regardless. Insider Gaming quoted Sasha Shams, who works at Riot Games, who said they genuinely believe that live service is the future for everyone. They said in a world of live service games, game teams stay competitive by building trust with their players through a consistent stream of content updates and balance adjustments to keep the game fresh. To keep up with player expectations, development teams are under increased pressure to continuously deliver new content, while also juggling updates to quickly respond to player feedback or fix a game-breaking bug. While this may be true for some, it isn't for many others, and I think if anything, it'll lead to a modern gaming crash. It'll be a deluge of live service titles that end up flooding the market, because there just simply won't be enough people or time to go around to play all of these games. And I fear so many developers and studios will lose their jobs and close down if they continue to push for this nonsense at all costs. Sure, there will be the occasional success story in the space, but for every win in live service, there's like 50 or more that will fail and implode. And it doesn't help when a lot of these games are not only expensive, but these companies are ran by morons too. Remember G4 Tech TV, the network that tried to come back, and then that woke feminist Frosk killed the entire operation with her feminism and gaming speech? Well, an older article from 2022 resurfaced where a streamer explained how they were being interviewed to work at G4 during its revival. The streamer, whose name is Misclick, said that when she was interviewed for a hosting position at G4, she was actively asked by the recruiter to argue in favor of canceling characters like Batman for being white and rich. Basically, G4 was vetting their potential host for this revival by seeing which of their options were politically aligned with the sort of narrative and ideology that G4 wanted to push. They wanted only people who hated white men and genuinely believed that white male characters were the devil. I'm not kidding. I figure instead of explaining it all, let's watch a clip instead. So, this is from YouTube channel RGT85 on their stream Spawncast, where they had Misclick on, so let's watch.
Okay, so like I thought a bunch of people were apparently there was like a whole like brigade of people like hating on wanting to cancel Batman or whatever, and I didn't like know about it. So
For what?
Okay, so like people are always like, yo, G4 shut down because of this or that, and I'm like, bro, I was already sus with G4 shutting down from the interview process, because like they offered me like a host position or whatever, and like you got to relocate out to LA,
right?
You know, like if we go through the final selection, blah blah blah. So I go through the interview process, and like the guy that was interviewing me, he goes, so why should we cancel Batman? And
what?
I was like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, why do you believe we should cancel Batman? And I was like, why are we canceling Batman? He's like, because he's rich and he's white. And I was like, well, what do those two have to do with each other? Like, yeah, people believe that he just skates on the law, and that if someone of color did the same exact thing, they wouldn't get away with it like he does.
That's a real ass question that they asked you?
That's literally what G4 recruiting asked me. And like whoever their manager was or whatever their interviewers were doing. So I think this is one of the reasons why they didn't like proceed me to the next level, because I was like, well, I mean, to be honest, like if I was getting like robbed or assaulted in Arkham or something, I wouldn't really care who's saving me. I don't care if he's rich and white. I just care enough that he's like actually like saving people, because are you gonna do anything about it? And yeah, he didn't like that answer. But when people are yo, Frost killed G4, I was like, honestly, G4's been dead since the interview process. And then later on, another question they asked me was, okay, besides Batman, what other superhero would you cancel?
You know, I know exactly who they wanted you to say. They wanted you to say Spider-Man because he works with the NYPD. Kotaku, every time a Spider-Man game comes out, I can't believe we're glamorizing this. It's like, shut the up, you fat white woman who's writing this article.
As you can see, this very weird and moronic way of thinking has permeated for a while now, and it's not just Suicide Squad or Rocksteady, it's industry-wide. This rot has filled the walls of many Western gaming studios, networks, and more. This very hateful anti-white male mentality is causing a lot of these places to shut down and be rejected by players and paying customers, and for good reason. Whether it's attempting to hire people by ensuring they're woke enough, or attacking people like myself by trying to pay me as a bigot for why a game I had no hand in making is failing, these establishments will stop at nothing when it comes to shifting the blame and ensuring their failures are constantly pushed onto someone else, while never course correcting or fixing the problems that plagued them to begin with. Suicide Squad failed because of racist anti-women fans apparently. That's what they'll say, and that'll be the narrative these developers and industry insiders will take from this. while completely ignoring why these things continue to keep happening in the first place. And the cycle will repeat until eventually there's nothing left and the industry just crashes and falls into oblivion. We need to keep voting with our wallets, rejecting this poison, and staying vigilant. And they can call me a bigot all they want, the proof is that we are winning, and that scares them. As always, thank you for watching, like, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoyed it. Thanks to my patrons, and have a wonderful day. Let's make video games great again, my friends, and I'll see you in the next one.